Hey y'all. Okay. So like I said before, there's always so much. There's so much. I was gonna try to cover a few things. Okay. And like I said, okay, like if on another video and other videos, I say I'll return to something, and then sometimes I never do. But a long time ago, I had said something about I must have missed the memo, and then I was gonna return to that. Like a while back, I was like talking to someone. I was like, you know what? I was like, I think the Queen gets a lot of Americans, the Queen and them, or whatever, however I worded it, gets a lot of Americans' money. And I was like, I even wonder if they're getting like tithing money, or whatever. And then I was also thinking about, I don't think I mentioned it talking about it, but I was thinking about like the organizations, like how, I mean, all like, all these organizations that the churches are helping with and stuff. So it's like, where, like, y'all get what I'm saying? Like, does that go where it should go and all that? Anyway, so when I was talking to that person, they said, "Oh yeah," and I was like, I mean, about the same age, whatever. I don't know. And I was like, I was thinking, yeah, I must have missed the memo. Like, like, anyways, because I don't think I'd ever realized. I mean, anyways, okay, or thought of that. But of course, you listen to other things. So, okay, anyways, so there's that. And like I said, there's so much, just so much. And then if I explain to y'all some of the like spiritual things, and maybe y'all could understand also where I'm coming from. And I didn't know if I wanted to get into it, but I really need to like just hurry up. Okay, so of course with some of the things that I've gone through and stuff like that, I have gone to my dad because he's a pastor. Okay, I'll get to that in a minute. Or I mentioned before about all that. Okay, so of course I've gone to my dad. Okay, just hurry up and say it. So I was like, Dad, I was preteen, teenager, whatever I was. I said, Dad, the Bible talks about prophets and stuff like that, but then the church or whatever says that psychics aren't good. And most of the time, my dad would tell me what he feels with this, and then he would tell me his personal opinion or whatever. So what did my dad say? Um, he said, "Oh yeah, that he did say. He did say that some things can be used for good and some things can be used for bad." And he said, in my personal opinion, and I don't know if he was saying that he was referencing it from the Bible or whatnot, but he said that he just felt like that you shouldn't receive money for it or something like that. But that's only going off. So long ago. If you feel like, if you can just tell me what you think, whatever. Okay, anyways. So there's that. So to hurry up and get that out of the way. And then I really did not know if I wanted to get in this story right now. But I already said before that with those three major incidents along the way, I felt like he had something to do with it. I mentioned that before. And okay, so the next, I'll probably return to this story later and I'll speak more about that. But the next day after the Vegas thing happened, something happened, and then I saw two people's face. So, just to mention that, I'll get more into that story later. Figured I need to at least say that so y'all could somewhat see where I'm also come from. Okay. Another thing I was going to talk about was, like I told my dad, I was like, y'all's mind is messed up. But I realize he doesn't remember a lot too. And like I've already shared before, he's the least that I'm mad at. He's 75. I just, oh yeah, and just to go real quick, like I was there, and the history station is talking about some of this stuff. So I'm sitting there, well, da da da, and they're talking about the blank, and then some people think that the blank is still in control, and I'm like, yes, yes, like how hard is this for me to be like, and then so, anyways, well, of course I got into it. I mean, not got into it, but I was trying to discuss some of this stuff which also leads into if people don't know what's going on in people's mind, and it's only in the last few years that I've got a little bit more understanding about the chemical imbalances and stuff like that. Because along the way, I had already like had my wonders about a lot of different things, and I'll return back to this conversation again too. Nothing else, but just trying to get people to understand how some people's mind might already feel like they're like messed up, like So it's like the judging part of you don't know what's going on in someone's mind, and people might actually do this or do that because they actually maybe feel normal, but then at the same time, I was, and that was in the same conversation with my dad because, like, telling them, well, y'all are on certain medicines, I mean, just not trying to be judging, but, just trying to get them to see, well, here's these people here, and then they're judging the people over here. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. And so, yeah. And just saying, well, even though I don't even know about it all, and of course, there's always more studying and understanding to go and a lot of different things. But then just trying to explain like the addiction part or whatever, because a lot of people, like even my dad, like that's why and how conversations come up, because he's like, well, I don't know why people don't learn or whatever, and then just trying to explain that. So not to say that people don't have an addiction problem or anything like that. Just trying to show and explain that, especially probably when have gone through a traumatic experience, especially as a young child, that does and can affect your brain. And then at the same time, the trauma and stuff. But totally another subject. Maybe we'll return to that some other time. But there's a lot to that. So yeah, if they're not gonna, which goes all into even that whole area with the doctors and all that jazz. So I hope it's understood that it looks like that they're using people stories or things that was involved with them, and they're the ones that has gone through certain things. And maybe they don't use the people things that might have anything to do with them in public stories if they're not aware. That makes sense? Because along the way, nothing seemed familiar to me or anything like that, except for the last few years that I've mentioned before. And then here's the last thing, and because I had no idea where I was going to go with all this, but looking at the date and all that, don't know, blah blah blah. A lot to have to cover and a lot to speak about, but didn't know if I want to go here either. But I grew up Baptist, but we visited other churches. So at a Baptist church, HW. That's not even a name. So for some reason that just stick out to me kind of made me nervous. Maybe that's the reason why I didn't have a few good weeks there. A few good weeks. I don't know. But anyways. So that was a little scary because yeah. And then of course to know that I haven't just run relationships. Or maybe not ruined, but alright. I'll see y'all soon. God bless.